So, guys, come on. The Mishnah starts on Yud Zayin and Aleph in Megillah. So it's the first Mishnah. It's the Mishnah of Koros and Megillah. So we're going to take up the topic today of over the next couple of days, which to me is very fascinating. Is the idea of the Megillah being written and read in other languages? Okay, very unique phenomenon of Megillah. Well, actually, not that unique because you see it by Sefer Torah also. We don't really do this today. So for those looking for practical relevance, you won't find much here, but it's still fascinating sugya in and of itself. He already fired a strike. All right? Why is it strike? Because when they lean from the Torah, let's take the Torah days. What would happen? The Torah is written in what language? Hebrew. They read a pasuk, and then the Metorgaman would do what? That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about Megillah is written in Spanish. Okay, like Megillah itself in Spanish on cloth.
With Safras K'tav?
Oh, so that's where things get interesting. It would seem that they used Ashuris Ksav to write the Spanish.
Literary.
Exactly. You're not reading Spanish letters. You're reading Spanish Ashuris. Right.
That's cool.
All right. Yeah, no. But it seems to me that would be mutter to do. So we have to understand what the idea is.
How do you know if you spelled it right?
One second, but think about it though. Think about it. How do we know from the Mishnah? Okay, read the Mishnah.
Okay, so from the
bracket, yeah.
From the bracket. So Koyal Peh.
Stop. What does Kar al Peh mean?
Reading by heart.
Okay, so the Gemara takes care of this, but why would that why could it never be a case of what's the classic case of Kar al Peh? What's the classic case?
Well, written in Hebrew in your...
No, that's the Gemara's case. If you thought about it first, what's Kar al Peh mean? Right. A guy gets up in front of a group by Kriyas and Megillah, and what does he do? He recites it by heart. And no cloth in front of him.
What if there is cloth and there's like a word missing and he says that word?
Separate question. Okay? But what's the Gemara says, no, what's Kar al Peh?
How do you write about word?
Kar al Peh is where I have a cloth in front of me and written in Hebrew, and what am I doing when I read it?
Reading in a different language?
In a different language. I'm translating it. That's Kar al Peh. Okay? Next case.
Well, both.
Well, that's a Carl Peh.
What?
That's a Carl Peh.
That's an example of Kar al Peh. That's what the Gemara's example is.
So why isn't that Koyal Targum?
So what's Kar? Okay, so
in the translation.
So Kar Targum bechol lashon.
So lashon in any language.
Right. That's what Targum means. It means, let's say I had a Megillah written in language X and read it in that same language.
Then
so
it would be.
At this point, it sounds like lo yatsa. When lo yatsa means what?
He's not yet.
You haven't filled your obligation. Okay. Now the Mishnah then says aval.
Aval kulinota.
Lilo azot. Laz. But the Mishnah says
you do it in a different language.
You're allowed to.
Like from another language.
No. Don't look at Rashi.
Laz means like a foreign language.
No, look at Rashi.
Oh man.
Just go right down, eyes down, wide lines.
Kol she'enu lashon hakodesh, like any language, anything which isn't lashon hakodesh nikar laz.
All right, so laz means what? Like you said, a foreign language. But when we say foreign language, we mean anything other than lashon hakodesh.
Okay.
Anything other than lashon hakodesh is laz. Okay. Now, of course, this is obviously, as we all know, is a stira, right? Because how can the Mishnah? It is. The Mishnah, the Gemara says so, because the Mishnah is saying you can't read it in any other language, and then it's saying if you read it in another language, you're yotzei.
Not really.
Other than these two guys here, the Gemara is going to. The Rashi says ulukam and parech. We see later on the ha'amris kar b'chaloshon lo yatsa. Rashi himself is telling you it's a stira. Okay. Yes.
He's saying the Gemara
We're clever enough. I understand. We all fine. Okay, but right now it's being perceived. Is that better as a contradiction? Okay. One more line. The aloes.
Shema shulis yetzeh.
Yatsa, right? So if you speak. Now this is going to be the hardest halacha. This is the machlokas Rishonim that we're going to spend a couple days on. If you speak a foreign language, okay, but hear it in Hebrew, you're always yotzei. Now, what would that imply?
You don't have to understand it.
Bingo. I show up to Megillah reading and I speak Spanish. I don't understand the lick of Hebrew, and I hear it being read in Hebrew. I fulfill my obligation.
Right.
Okay, that's where things are going to get interesting. Okay, so you have three halachas. Two real halachas. One is bifurcation. Can you not read Megillah in another language? And the second halacha is that if I hear it in Hebrew, I'm always yotzei. So if I'm a Bukharian is a language too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I speak Bukharian, but I hear it in Hebrew, I'm yotzei. Okay. All right, so. Go to the Gemara now. Go to the Gemara in Yochai Samnaf. I want to push you this quickly, okay? Because this is just to get a sense of the issues we're dealing with.
That's what I'm reading.
No, you could read just fine. Go. So where the brackets are.
Right. About klinos ale lazos be laz be. So this is just calling back into what the mission is.
Correct.
Bahamat, bahamat kol be kolashon. Go ahead say.
Oh, one second. So that's a stira.
Right. So this is a question.
Right. Put a little more inflection in it. You gotta you see it like this. The ha'amris, right?
Okay.
Kara b'choloshon lo yatzab, and then Mishnah say that, right? That's how when they wrote this. That's how they were speaking, right? So that makes no sense. It's a stira, right? So the Gemara says no.
Rav Shmuel da Amrei Tzarehu.
Travayo.
Sure. And Rav and Shmuel, they said together, Belaz Yavani.
Which means what?
In Greek.
In Greek, okay? Now, why Greek? All right, so let's just get that out of the way. Why Greek? Yeah. Rambam says in the Perish Mishnayos, why Greek? All right, so he says, it's where it starts, where he says...
absolute.
So the Rambam says, the Rambam says what? The Rambam says that, why Greek? He says that Tom, he says, I'm sorry, you go back a bit, he says, Umashin ishtana lashon yavani mishar lashonos. Why is Greek different than other languages? Levi move on etzlam. Because it was what? What does move on etzlam mean?
Survival of
All right, so let's use today as an example, okay? So I think
Greek.
bingo. In other words, you would say English is a second language of
It doesn't really answer the question.
of the world. No. So he's saying, what is it about? It's not that unique thing about Greek.
Okay.
It's saying that
be the world language at the time.
right. So it's saying that if you're going to have again, just at this point, if it's going to be in another language, why would you be limiting it to Greek? Because you're saying the translating into another language only applies to the most prevalent language spoken outside of Hebrew.
No, I understand, but
That only knows one thing, okay? The idea, forget who understands what. Right now, the Megillah, according to Rav and Shmuel, was able to be written and read both in Hebrew and in Greek. But why Greek? Because whatever the permission is to translate to another language would be, it would have to be limited to that language which is most prevalent. Meaning it's not going to be in like Uzbek.
quantitatively more prevalent.
Hey dummy.
Hey, don't call me a dummy.
Oh, get out of here. Hey dummy.
So mean. I'm practicing.
So what's the case?
I'm trying to find it. Give me a song. Yelaima.
Elema.
Yelaima. Tiva. Ashois.
Keep going.
The Kaila Yelamis.
Hainu. Alpeh. So what's the case? The case can't be what?
If you read in Yavanis and written in Hebrew.
Right, it can't be where it's written in Hebrew and you read it in Yavanis. Because what's that?
That's transliteration?
No, that's Alpeh.
Is there some alpha?
Yeah, because if it's written in Hebrew and I'm saying it in Greek, I'm translating it as I read it into Greek.
That just seems pointless.
That's clear. Right, so it can't be. Right?
No, I mean, that could be argued. I'm saying.
Yes, Avi's correct. We're not ready to play this card yet. It sounds Alpeh-ish, right? But if you think about it, is it really Alpeh?
Yes.
Because is it really?
The word you're saying
Is it really Alpeh? No, but it's true. So Mati's going to say, but the words you're saying aren't those words. But one second. But on the other hand, you could argue that it's true. I'm not saying the words, but certainly we have it by the Meturgamon. Forget the fact that when you read the Sefer Torah, the guy's reading it and then someone's translating it. But the point is, what does translation do?
Why does it have to be audible Hebrew?
No, so the argument against would be like, you're not reading what's in the Megillah, you're reading something else.
My mouth isn't saying what's in the Megillah, but I'm reading what's in the
The Gemara is saying, why would this be Alpeh? Because it just keep it simple, you're getting too complicated. The fact is that, like Mati's saying, the fact is that I'm not reading what's written down. I'm reading something else.
a little bit. Every time.
I'll get you out of the problem. Not only was the Megillah read in Greek, but it was written in Greek. So let's put in order. So if it was written in Greek, there's no problem reading it in Greek as well. Okay? But one second, now skip down to Mesive. Go down two lines. The first one line is Mesive.
Why? Can you explain why?
Kara.
Mesive Kara giftis.
Right.
Ivris.
Now, stop for a second. What do you mean by Ivris?
No, it's
Hebraic. Giftis, Ivris,
Someone left it.
Ilmis, Midis, Ivanis, Loyetze.
All right. So what's the Gemara's kasha?
reason I said that.
Simple.
It's not public.
There's this other brisa that says.
Enough people.
Which
All
language?
this other stuff.
Yavanis.
Yavanis is in
Now
the
you're not Yotze. So that's Soser Rav and Shmuel.
What?
All right, so what's the problem? So what's the kasha in the Gemara? The Gemara is saying this is a kasha against Rav and Shmuel. Why is it kasha against Rav and Shmuel? Right.
So
Okay.
how
So-
can they
Robert
say?
School can't argue with the Brisa.
Well, we want everything to be universal. We want everything to work out perfectly.
But if we knew there was something that could argue.
Correct. So what's the Gemara's answer? Ha. This is the key point I want to make. Ha.
Huh?
Lo damya.
I'm getting there.
Maybe you should leave your finger on the place when we leave it.
Hello, Damya.
Okay, sis, the gifsis, avadim,
Ivris le'ivrim.
Ivris le'ivrim, the ilmis le'ilmim, and Yevanis le'Yevanim yitzeh.
Stop. That's all we have to do for this Gemara. So what's the point of the Gemara at this point? The Gemara is saying that when we say giftis, what we mean is that you write it in Spanish and read it in Spanish for who?
For people who say Spanish.
Who speak Spanish, who understand Spanish. Meaning that what wouldn't work? Just get the easy case. Thank you. Right? You can never write a Megillah in German, read it in German for a Spanish audience. That wouldn't work. Clear?
Clear.
Okay. Remember that and put that in the back of your head, because Tosos is going to be relying on this Gemara when we finally get to Tosos. Now comes the Gemara that we have to do to get this is the opening svara. Go.
Can you fuzz and read
No, okay, the only information you need here is...
V'alo es Shama Ashuris Yatza.
Some hachira l'shma.
Yeah, you skip down to the two dots.
Skip down to the
Yeah. V'alo es Shama Ashuris Yatza. V'halo.
Hello, yadam me ka'amre.
Right. So one second. So what does that mean?
And he didn't know
What was being read?
what was being read.
If I speak, so what's the Gemara's question? What's the Gemara's question? What's the Gemara's question?
Like different language.
No,
What?
like we
No,
have
worse.
it for in
Oh.
Hebrew, like by
No one understands Hebrew either.
Saying you gotta understand it.
Right. No. So if I walk into Kriyas Megillah and I speak Spanish and I don't understand Hebrew, how am I
What good
Yotze?
is it, right?
Yeah. What good is it? What good is that?
No,
it seems
I think
worthless.
more it's a big question of why you separate in other languages, saying that they have to understand them, and then if some are making Hebrew separate, we don't understand Hebrew either.
Right.
Which one
Oh,
understand
no,
both
I agree.
sides?
So but now I think you're gonna get a sense now, I think, of why this is the starting place to define. Because this is the most basic case. Okay. What language is the Megillah written in?
Hebrew.
Okay, so keep that in Ashura. So keep that in mind. Then the Gemara is saying, one second. The Gemara is saying that if the Megillah is written in Ashuris, and I come in and I hear it in Ashuris, but I speak Spanish, right? How could it be that I'm Yotze? Right? That doesn't make any. It seems not to make any sense.
At least according to how the rest are.
So far. Now keep going, and the Gemara says, one second. We have an answer. What's the answer?
I don't know. My sirogin.
No. You're too far. So, Midi Dahava.
Wait, did I skip to? Yeah, I skipped to the wrong place. Got me midday dehava anashim ve'amehar.
Stop. So no. What do you mean? The Gemara says Mati knows, but none of you guys know this. So what's the Gemara's answer?
The Gemara's answer is, you're right. Nobody. You don't even understand what you're reading, or else Ameyaretz would never be Yotzei any mitzvah.
And Nashim. Right. So what's the premise the Gemara is making?
Doesn't a
Then?
Nashim mean men?
No, it's Nashim. Nashim, not a Nashim. Nashim. So one second. What's the Gemara's premise then? The Gemara is saying that. Well, one second. But women in Ameyaretzim could be Yotzei, right? Well, what do you mean? How do you know that to be the case? How do you know it's the case? You're saying good. Okay. It's clear you didn't think of this during Hachana. Clear, but you're saying good. In other words, the Gemara is going to have to find this a little bit, but the Gemara is looking to some precedent to make this point about women in Amratzim. It's saying that because what's the Gemara's question? The Gemara's question is you should understand everything. You should understand what's going on here.
What's the value of
But
reading?
the Gemara says, what do you mean? But we see that there's something that exists. Right, women in Amratzim are Yotzei, even though they're not going to understand everything that's going on. Right. Okay. So now that seems like a very nice, satisfactory answer.
What is this kid's question?
Keep going. Aryeh. Maskif lo Ravina.
Maskif lo Ravina. I don't know what that word means.
He asked the question.
Okay. That's two groups.
Atu. Ha'achashtranim. You won't be able to pronounce. It's a Megillah word. Ha'achashtranim b'nei
Shanim b'nei
Ramachim miyadian. All right. What's his question?
Oh, this question is like this. Question is, who cares if women on my arts are not Yotzei? So maybe let's say they're not Yotzei. Who are we reading for? We're reading for the Talmei Chachamim. No, but nobody knows how.
They're too sophisticated.
No.
What's his question? Simple. What's his
I
question?
bring it right from them. The question is maybe women on my arts are not.
No, but not that nobody knows Hebrew, but nobody knows what. Right. In other words, Ravina's saying, of course it is.
I what he's saying.
Ravina's question is a beautiful question. But don't worry, you're giving svara. You're trying to explain it. Just factually, what's Ravina's question? Ravina's question is, you think women are Amaratzim. Well, one second, but there's something intrinsically problematic about Megillah, which is that nobody understands it. Okay, there are going to be words that people don't understand. The Gemara's question was mi hava. What is it? Mi v'halo yada my kamre. Meaning that what would be the chiyuv of Megillah?
No, and understanding it.
You must understand it. The Gemara says, 1 second. But I see that we know that there in let's say by Kriyas Torah, not everybody understands it. So why is why is the quantitative amount of people understanding it relevant? I'm not defining it. I'm just saying factually. Why is it relevant? The Gemara says, Ravina says, 1 second. But that's if other people could understand it. But what if I told you nobody understands Megillah? Right, so you're back to the original question.
That's the original question?
You'll see. Back to the original question.
The overriding question is what?
How do you have a Kriyas Megillah? Ravina's asking. I don't want to give it. Right, yeah, Ravina's saying, how could that be? That's impossible. Right, but that means you're missing the point. That means Ravina, in his mind, had an assumption of what Kriyas Megillah should have been.
Should have been people understanding.
Right. Okay. You have to define that. Ravina.
Why?
That's the hominy you miss. In other words, because you look at the Gemara's answer. What's the Gemara's answer? Read the Gemara's answer.
میدونی الا میتوس یا پرسونی
Upersuming nisa hacha. Just like here, it's mitzvah. The mitzvah is kriya and persuming nisa. So too, persuming nisa, publication of the miracle.
Okay.
Give me an example of persuming nisa. Hanukkah. What's the publication of the miracle in Hanukkah? The candle is persuming nisa. When you light the candle,
So you're saying that the reading here is the Persuming Nisa.
Whoa! Jumpy. So look at. I'm just going to read Rashi. Rashi says, where's the Persuming Nisa here? That's where Rashi comes up with this incredible shot. You realize you cannot understand this without Rashi. So Rashi says, what's Persuming Nisa? This is Afal Pi She'ein Yodin Mashe Shomin. This is crazy. Even though no one there has any idea what the heck's going on. A Ukrainian comes to a Megillah in Hebrew, and what does Ukrainian say? I don't know what the heck's going on here. But what's going to happen?
He's going to ask.
Right. Shon is a showman. So the Ukrainian's going to say, hey, what's going on here, right? The Omrin, Maya Kriyazu. What is this?
Thing that you're eating.
Exactly, right? The Omrin, right? Excuse me, the Echayanes. And what was this miracle? Umodilan. And those who understand it, now explain it to them. One second. What do you mean? What do you mean Umodilan? But no one understands it. The Marashach. Nobody understands it. Even the Marashach. But before you get to that question, you got to go in the Gemara's logic. It's beautiful. Rashi's saying, but the people who understand it will explain it to them.
But you just said that no one would understand.
But, okay, so what does he mean? When we say understanding it, we're obviously going to have a different notion of what understanding it means in the Maskana than versus the Havamina. Because in the Havina's world, the fact they don't understand, if the Ukrainian says, hey, what were those words mean? What's the answer of the Talmud Chacham? Or whoever. Exactly. Okay, because we don't know what those words mean. Okay? So what's going on in this Gemara? What was the assumption? What's Ravina's? No, because Rashi's saying Umudin Lahem. The Gemara says, V'halo yada mai ka'amrei. Right? And the Gemara's answer, the Gemara's assumption is, 1 second, it won't work if I speak another language and it won't work if I hear it in Hebrew, right? If I only know Spanish, right? The Gemara says, no, the Maskana is no, it would work because we see there's a precedent, okay? What's the Gemara thinking at this point? What's the idea the Gemara's toying with a certain possibility of Kriyas Megillah, and it's going to reject it. The initial assumption of the Gemara, this is the easy step, okay? The initial assumption of the Gemara was that the mitzvah of Kriyas Megillah is modeled after every other type of mitzvah's kriya. And every other type of mitzvah's kriya, now here comes the key move. And every other type of mitzvah's kriya, what do we know about a mitzvah's kriya? You got to understand the progression. You got to appreciate how the Gemara moves. In other words, when the Gemara says, but by every other mitzvah's kriya, we know that women and Amaratzim don't understand it, but yet what? It's still a good kriya, meaning what?
That's what I talk about.
No, but we don't. You're not high time in Torgamon.
So what do we might know?
I'll explain to you in 1 second. So think about it. What is the structure of the Kriyas Torah structured around what? There's a reason why they chose that precedent. Right? No, I'm saying, but Kriyas Torah always takes place in what type of environment? Tzibor. Okay, and you see that Kriyas Megillah also really is supposed to be done. But Tzibor, give me proof, by the way. Give me proof. What? No, that's a conceptual proof. Halachically, yeah.
Halachically is because
just give me a raya. Like, how do you how did Tzibor different than Yachid by Kriyas Megillah?
you don't make a
Forget that. No, okay. You know how you posted the Megillah in the beginning?
Or you're supposed to show it to everybody.
Well, no, you unroll the Megillah in the beginning to read it like an Igaris. So you unroll the whole thing, right? You don't have to do it when you're Yachid. Or you don't. Or let's say Asar Spinei Haman in one breath. to keep mitzibor.
Yeah,
So these things are there's certain halachas built into the actual reading that are bedafka dam mitzibor. Okay. Now, but forget that's not essential to know for this. But what am I saying here? In other words, the kriya of if you model kriyas Megillah after kriyas Torah. So the thing is, as long as there's in every tzibor, you're always going to have some people who.
As long as there is a tzibur to listen to.
Right, because there's always going to be some component of the tzibor that does what? That does understand. In other words, in every tzibor you're going to have what? You're going to have women, amaratzim, and people who do understand. So as long as there's some component of the tzibur that understands what's going on, that's always the kriya. Exactly. So that we don't look when we look at a tzibor, we don't see women, amaratzim, and talmid chachamim. What do we see? A tzibor. Even though we know that there are people in the tzibor who don't understand kriyas Torah. That's perfectly fine because it's a kriya of tzibor, and in tzibor there's no individuality in tzibor. Everyone's subsumed underneath one greater identity.
So
Tzibor.
that nobody understood
The Gemara is saying like this. The Gemara is saying that if the construct of Kriyas Megillah was what you thought it was, right, like Kriyas Torah, right, then that will be okay. But we have what's the problem with Kriyas Torah? What's wrong with Kriyas Megillah that won't work? Why this won't work?
Ravina's question.
Right. What's Ravina's question?
Words. Nobody knows.
Which means that
Nobody
you can't. So he's keying.
can't be Yotze.
So he's keying you into on something. Ravina's move. Ravina has an assumption, which is a wild assumption, which is why he has to reject it. Ravina's saying this kriya is not a kriya like Sefer Torah. It's a different kind of kriya. What kind of kriya is it?
Kriya of Sumanism.
Which means what?
Which means that it's not about the
gotta
people, it's
The
just
nace.
gotta happen.
What? No.
No, it's about
Ravina's question is the playing of his card.
Be Yotze the shear of nace.
Ravina's question, don't forget the maskana kriya upri simonisa. Ravina's question plays his hand, okay? Ravina's asked, when Ravina says, well, what do you mean? Nobody understands every single word. What did he think Kriyas Megillah should have been? It can't be Kriyas Torah. So what should it have been?
Every single
But
word.
it can't be. Which means what? Which means what? Now give me the halachic definition of that. You do. You said Kriya Shapir, but what do you mean by that?
It means it should just be a relating over a story.
So which would require what?
Understanding.
Oh, one second.
Every
So
word?
what's something? No.
That's why he ditches it.
Right. You're going to make this a Kriya of Pirsum, meaning you're going to take the idea of Pirsum, of publicizing it, and actually bring it into the halachic Maisa Kriya. What's therefore you're chayiv to do?
Make everybody understand.
Everyone has to understand every single word. If I were going to tell you that the type of Kriya I'm doing is a Kriya of Pirsum, that means that every word must be understood. It's not the telling of a story. It's that I have to understand every word of the story to be Yotzei. Step is as follows. Ravina's step is that it's not a Kriya Shel Torah. What makes the Kriya Megillah different than every other Kriya? Pirsum Nisa.
Why is it
Different every word.
Let me ask you a question. If you once you introduce, you guys are saying it. Once you introduce Pirsum Nisa, what kind of Kriya is this now? Is it a Kriya of? It's not a kriya of ideas anymore. That's Torah. What's it a kriya of?
The effect of people understanding.
No. What is it of kriya of? The story. You're transmitting a story. Now, if you're transmitting a story, there's two logical possibilities. One possibility is, okay, well, if I'm going to transmit a story, what do I have to therefore know? The whole story. I got to know every single word of the story, or else what's going to happen? It's lacking in the transmission of the story. When I told you to be careful of the lashon of the Gemara says.
Ella's is Lashon continuing from...
No. Is it a kriya of Pirsum? Or mitzvah kriya? Pirsume Nisa. Meaning what? What's Rashi telling you? So you'll see that Rashi's making a brilliant move, okay? What trade in him? Meaning what? You have to do a Maisa Kriya. But what does the Kriya have to do? Produce Pirsume Nisa.
Only if it's a
has to be Maisa Kriya, but has to produce. So what's Pirsume? Rashi's not saying that it has to result in that. Of course not. Yeah, so no, it's saying in its abstract form, the Kriya is one that lends itself to people asking about
only
it.
If it has to be a Maisa.
The Gemara's Havamina was, you take the notion of publicizing the story and you actually put it into the halachic Maisa Kriya, the action of reading, which would mean everybody must understand every word of the story. Because that's what you're doing here, transmitting the story. Or do you say no? You have to do of course you have to do a Maisa Kriya, but the Kriya has to be one that can produce a Pirsum Nisa. Okay? Meaning that, and what's the Pirsum Nisa? How's it going to emerge? Because people are going to be there. They may not understand the language, right? But they're going to say, oh, what's going on with this story? So there are people there who are going to understand the story, right? Because it's not a Pirsum in every word. They'll understand a story by the Kriya itself, and other people will not understand it, but they'll use The other people did understand it to publicize the story itself. Okay? In the construct of the Kriya, meaning when Chazal created this new kind of Kriya Pirsum, they took the Pirsum thing and they stuck it into the Kriya, saying that every word has to be understood, because that's how you transmit the story.
I was
The-
about so